This podcast contains adult themes and language. The views expressed here are our own opinions and experiences. We are not medical professionals.
In this podcast, we discuss our opinions about mental health, sobriety, addiction, and our pursuit of happiness and peace. This is Sober Mind.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I had a script that works 70% of the time, 100% of the time. That's supposed to go from the intro to the main.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do some quick intros. Good morning. My name is John.
I'm Judy.
And I am Patrick.
And
I'm Lisa.
Me.
welcome, Lisa. Welcome to the show. So big surprise for everybody. Lisa was down here physically visiting last week. And once the show got done, we extended a very informal invite for her to join the show whenever she is available. So she's up in the box up there, and she'll be joining and having some spirited discussions with us. And that is that.
Good morning, everybody who logged in. Fem, Odie, Michelle, Mom.
Yes.
Morning.
Good morning. Okay, some quick housekeeping. Hold on, let me turn this.
Yeah, I was
music down.
about to ask. I'm like, I'm a little itchy.
Yeah. So we did a ton of changes with some audio setups and everything. So I did a bunch of tests this morning. If you hear any echoes, someone let me know. I probably won't be able to fix it right now. So we're just gonna have to deal with it.
F it, we'll do it live.
Yeah, we will do it live. We'll get some.
It's a live show, so we just, roll with it.
Yep. We got our music going. Okay.
Oh, that's nice. I like that.
Oh my God, you guys! Real quick, we are at 999 subscribers. Who's gonna be the one person to kick 1,000? We should have done 1,000 prize giveaway, but no. Okay. Today's discussion is going to be traumatic brain injury and CTE. Or
Chronic traumatic encephalopathy.
Yeah.
I'm glad you.
Judy was practicing.
I was like, oh,
It
wait,
took
I
me-
forgot to
It
rehearse
took me forever
that.
to sit. I just kept repeating to encephalopathy. It's a big word.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, we're gonna start talking about how that happens, the most popular groups that it happens to, what it does to the brain, and the effects of this condition. So,
Plus how it relates to addiction.
yes, addiction and alcoholism. So, I will get going here in a second. But hey, Odie, I just want to go give a quick shout out. Odie has helped me with some more technology. He got me started the other day on really sprucing up our Good Morning Beast Wrestling North Carolina or Incorporated. That was a Cujo.
You can just call Cujo.
Cujo. Odie helped me start to spruce up our Discord server. So if you have a chance, it would be awesome if you all jumped in and joined our Discord. The link is at the top of our show banner description in YouTube. Jump in there and join it. We've got a forum in there. We've got guest requests, future guest topic links, a bunch of other stuff. There is Odie, you'll be proud of me. I created a if this then that webhook, and it sends an alert to the YouTube live feed within Discord whenever we post something live. Tested it this morning. I forgot all about it. Yeah. So when the short got uploaded, it sent the link to Discord. But anyway, it's a fantastic area for us to start to do some discussions and collaboration. Mm-hmm. And here shortly, once we get some more numbers, we're going to start to be able to do exclusive member perks and everything. And that's going to be our launch pad area in there.
I'm thankful for it because we're growing to the point where, Before we've kind of had one-on-one conversations with stakeholders and people helping.
Yeah.
And now it's kind of like, wait, we need a space where we can all kind of collaborate together. And Discord does that very well. And we're very thankful that.
Speaking of gratitude.
Yeah, Odie has a lot of experience in that. I'll kind of dovetail into gratitude with that.
Nice segue.
Yes, I find it when we stop fighting and struggling, how many opportunities appear for our gifts. Meaning, like, on this endeavor, we worry about, like, we're not professional streamers or whatever, but there are many gifts that we have that, like, when the test comes, they are easy to rise to, or, knowing certain people for it that we're just not, like, help will come when it's available. The universe answers the call, more or less. I don't want to get like, so like
when you try to force it, it ends up doing more damage than good instead of just relaxing and letting it come to you.
Yes. So much easier said than done.
Yeah, right.
My God. I've been doing some stuff, getting some stuff prepped for my future and doing things. And it's like, just let it go. Don't worry about it. It's like every minute of every fucking day, though, for me, it's like, yeah, you got to check on it. You got to do this and got to do that. I've been working on that my entire life. That's my
inner control freak doesn't like
that.
it.
That is the scariest fucking thing. Like, right? We want to like grip it so hard to make sure, like, I need to control it. And, come to find out, some of the best scenarios or happenings in life unfold in front of you better than you could even imagine if you were gripping it. And that's that's what's also the scary part too, right?
Yeah.
Like, my control may not even be enough, or like as good as it could be type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all, Odie's talking about the volume being lower than past podcasts.
Oh, we're up.
Are we talking voice volume or are we talking music volume?
Oh,
or
yeah.
both?
It
You
looks
said,
like
are the voices in the yellow mark?
no, we're not. Mine
No.
is.
Well, no,
We checked
mine
some
is
of the
not.
games. You could probably go like 3 or 6 dB on the output. Check 1, 2. Yeah,
How's that?
that should have been peaking there, and I wasn't.
I'm like right on the line. It comes and goes.
Well, you should.
Oh, there we go. That's That's a good one. We're getting a thumbs up from Lisa.
He said much better. They said much better.
Awesome.
Cujo. No, somebody said but much better. Sam, I think. Well done. Better,
Much better. Yeah, it sounds better to me too. I don't sound like I'm yelling.
Huh. Okay, I'll have to get that checked out. Thank you for letting us know, Odie. All right.
Gratitude. Did you have some? Or do you just want to dovetail on what he did?
Yeah, you go ahead.
A lot of distractions there. Yes, give him a second.
You know how I get.
Oh God, I didn't even prepare one today.
I'll just do a simple one to get maybe.
Sure, go right ahead.
I have gratitude for man. Now these things sound like they're super hot, super spicy, coming in hot. All right. Anyway, we'll just roll with it. Yeah, Fem says so much better. Okay, I got to make a ton of adjustments. All right. Anyway, so my gratitude is lately just I'm very happy to have my health and a warm house.
True
Yeah.
that, yes.
Yes.
Very much so, especially with this cold weather.
I do not take it for granted.
Very much. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to the fact that we're at 99 subscribers.
999.
999. I'm just he
He's
just
just
checked again just to make sure nobody else like snuck
Kid
in
waiting at the window, just breathing on it.
there. Open.
Well, it's a huge milestone. We've been
Yeah.
putting in a lot of work, and it's not about the subscribers, but I do like the community engagement with everything.
Yes, I'm glad that we were. I mean, we've seen some of the comments that we get from some of the people who watch his shorts and other stuff like that, and some of the comments that we get are just they make me feel so much better, because these people say that, you know, even if it's just a little short, man, I really needed to hear that today. That was great. I'm really trying, and I'm having a rough day, and that just made my day a lot better. Just the fact that we're able to help one person feel better and have a better day, it just makes me super happy.
Agreed. Patrick, do you watch my shorts?
I do.
Oh,
Not all of them. I need to do better at catching all of them.
Did you see the one today?
I did not. Man, sometimes the mornings are out of my control in my household.
I can imagine that. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Okay, let's jump into it. Moving forward, we will simply refer to this as CTE.
Or TBI.
Or TBI instead of chronic traumatic
Encephalopathy.
Yeah.
And just for good measure, I'm grateful for y'all and those on the chat.
Yeah. Thank you, Lisa.
I'm very thankful for Lisa here too. She's good at, you know, we're going to continue our technology, but I think Judy and I have both spent our time in the box.
Yes.
So,
yes. Welcome to the box.
Is this like the penalty box in hockey? Am I like regulated to the box?
Well, I really enjoyed the fact that after we had our show last weekend, we were able to sit around and just chat, and our dialogue during that chat was almost better than the show. It was it just flowed so easily, and everybody had great ideas, and it was fantastic. So I'm so glad you're able to join us.
Me too. They said my volume's low, but
I just cranked it up. It's as high as it can go.
yeah, John's working on that too. He's got some plans.
Yes, definitely.
All right, I got it maxed out in Video Ninja now too. Okay, but thanks for the feedback.
So, do you want to go into CTE or traumatic brain injury?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, guys. I'm so distracted now. I'm only 50% present. But it's tough to get all the technology ironed out. We do all the testing and everything before the show, but it's just not the same once you start broadcasting. So anyway, we're good. Lisa's cranked, and we got a solution for that shortly. So, okay.
Cranked.
Yep, cranked. All right. So, yeah, and sorry, Lisa, for not asking. See, I forget the box for the gratitude and everything. So just chime in.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll get out of my box eventually.
Okay, so CTE and TBIs, they predominantly happen with a lot of sports players.
CTE specifically.
Yes.
TBI
Yes.
is a newer emerging term to encompass traumatic brain injuries in general. These can involve like concussions or bumps or certain things, but CTE is most of the time related with sports, specifically football and contact oriented sports. It also shows up in veterans in combat a lot,
which they're just now starting to bring to the fore, which is really nice.
Right.
So CTEs, you have the chronic contusions or brain injuries. It's basically the brain sliding around in the skull and ramming into the side of the skull or the front of the skull or the back of the skull, depending on where it's being hit. So you have those chronic over and over subconcussions is what they are. And then the TBIs are when you have a traumatic one, like when you're in a car accident or when you fall down and really, really smash your head. It usually involves a concussion of some kind.
Yep. So yeah, I wanted to just point out that the TBI was the overarching like general catch bucket, and the CTE is a very specific, longer term item that can have TBI related to it, but it's
correct.
But the main hallmark of it is the long term
chronic.
Yep.
The over and over, and like I said, they have the subconcussions, which are the small contusions of the brain. They don't actually cause a complete concussion, but it does cause some kind of bruising or damage to the brain.
Yep, absolutely. So it was interesting. This topic was brought to me, and usually when you're in the as alcoholics in the space in recovery, there's been a lot of stuff developed around. 12 steps has been around for a long time. CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. There's a whole bunch of modalities that have been developed and studies around that. I was really surprised to find that the TBI, the brain injury, and the CTE stuff and alcohol-related stuff is fairly new, or like it's an emerging. I don't want to call it study, but like correlation. So
I think, okay, so some of the stuff that I had watched about football players after they had retired and when they started going through their decline because of them having CTE. And unfortunately, just a little note, unfortunately, you can't diagnose CTE until you've already died.
Yep.
And they can examine the brain. That's the only way they can diagnose CTE at this point. But when they would go into their decline and they would start having erratic behavior, having dementia, having a little
mood swings, impulsivity.
Yes.
Like,
and so they would, instead of having somebody help them with that or to help them kind of deal with that, they would turn to alcohol. They would turn to drugs. They would turn to anything else to help deal with the issues that they were having that most of them didn't even know that they were having.
Yeah.
Then, sorry. I was
Go,
gonna
jump
say,
in.
And then it almost produces a synergistic effect. from
Yes.
then on.
Yes. You mentioned that earlier. Yeah. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Well, sure. So at the most basic level, in your brain are these things called neurons, which are the little communicators, and the neurotransmitters are the little pieces of communication that flow between them. And drugs and alcohol mimic specific neurotransmitters. So like, for example, if you've ever talked about depression, you've heard the term serotonin.
Mm-hmm.
And there are specific drugs that act like a serotonin type communicator in the brain, or gabapentin or dopamine, as you well know. And it's almost like a lock and a key. Only specific neurotransmitters can enter specific neuron receivers.
Yep.
Yep, receptors, right. And so when you put the drugs and alcohol in, your brain thinks, oh, this is the communicator I'm looking for. And so after a certain amount of time, it stops producing natural neurotransmitters because you're putting them in via a foreign substance. And eventually, after years or months or however heavy the use, or when your brain decides to, it can add more receptors to a neuron, which essentially changes the brain structure, which can then start mimicking some of the brain damage.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Also, the CTE, eventually the brain starts producing a protein called, I think it's called tau. And what that does is it just starts killing off brain cells.
Hardening the brain. I mean,
Yeah.
so many contusions.
Yep. And it starts reproducing this protein in the brain, and that protein just starts killing away brain cells. And that's how you get the massive effects of CTE, like dementia or some of the other ones.
So my brother brought this one to me, and I was like intrigued by it because I don't know if a lot of people remember, but one of the bigger cases to help push this forward in the NFL was a linebacker, Junior Seau, who's Super Bowl. I think he got the MVP. I can't remember, but very prolific linebacker, Hall of Famer. And he declined so quick after his career, had a lot of problems with CTE and depressive, and just like he ended up committing suicide by shooting himself in the chest. And he asked for his brain to be autopsied because he's like, there's something wrong with me, right? This isn't right. So like that was very tragic, and that helped push forward our better understanding. And
there was also a player, I think he played for the Steelers back in the 70s, who donated his family donated his brain, and that's when they started actually noticing that all this stuff was actually damaging the brain.
Yep, I was concerned when we were looking at stuff like you talked about. I appreciate you sharing, how the brain works with the receptors and everything, because if you were to map a Venn diagram of symptoms of like alcoholism and what TBI does to the brain, like there is a lot of common ones, which speaks to the synergistic effect of this and this is the scary part. So what we're trying to say is those who have had TBI or suffering from CTE are of a higher proclivity to fall into addictive substances.
Yes.
Not
Most
just
definitely.
for the self-medication aspect, but because they're also in the addictive substances, that just like it keeps the brain from healing. Like it's this weird feedback loop, and it didn't make sense. I didn't process something until I read it. Like somebody had an analogy, like also those who are in addictive substances like alcoholism, like are more prone to TBIs and CTE as well.
Yes, because they're unstable, and which could cause them to have a concussion.
Simple thought is like you don't have your balance, you're going to bang your head more.
Yes.
Right? But the best analogy that somebody gave to me is like hitting your head while you're drunk is like trying to run while your ankle is broken. That
Yeah.
that injury
Yeah.
that may not have been that big a deal if you were sober, because your brain's already in a distressed state, like it has just amplified that effect even more so. So it just creates this giant echo chamber of TBI increases.
And then to wrap it around, you're now more in a distressed state, so you want to drink some more.
Right.
So it just keeps going in this vicious circle. Yeah.
And what's scary about TBI and CTE is, like you said about CTE, is you can't be diagnosed until
you're past. Yeah.
The scary thing is that this is a gradient type of effect, and it's very global symptoms, right? Like these are just like general effects. Like, oh, that person is just getting grumpier because they're just getting older, right?
Yeah, or they're getting dementia because they're just getting older, or they're getting Alzheimer's because they're
Right.
just getting older, or their short-term memory is going away because they're just getting
The early hallmarks are not. I would say I would say not concerning. Like if you were to look at it, isolate a certain effect, and you're just like, oh yeah, look at it. But when you start to piece them together and paint a picture of the change in behavior, that's the scary thing. Much like alcoholism, that this society doesn't have words and spaces to talk about it. So too do I worry about TBI and CTE. People don't have, there's not a lot of education and a lot of information out there on there to be aware of what's going on. Right. So people, and because of that, there's not a lot of tools to help it, i.e. self-medication is more rampant because of that.
Yes. And the correlation, there's barely any information. I could barely find any information between the correlation between CTE and TBI and addicts and alcoholism. There's almost no information out there for the two of them together.
Yeah. So, Patrick, I was telling Judy yesterday that this is just now starting to come to fruition, and it gets disappointing and frustrating sometimes when we look at how slow we address some of these things. I was telling Judy that when I was in the Army, we used to do a lot of live fire training and drills, let alone the combat zone stuff. But we still, even out of boot camp, we used to do pugil stick training, which is wearing a really shitty old helmet and just getting drilled in the head with huge batons. And you know what the analogy of that is, or the old adage of this makes you tougher. That's just so stupid and backwards. Imagine, the poor World War I soldiers, shell shock. That's a whole, we can go down that whole rabbit hole, but we used to do live fire training all the time to get used to this stuff. But I'm concerned that I might have a little bit of this stuff. I had a little bit of a frustration meltdown yesterday doing sheetrock. Sheetrock is the shittiest stuff to ever work with. I hate it. I was explaining to Odie what that was, and I just sort of stopped because I didn't want to talk about sheetrock anymore. I hate that shit. Anyway.
Yeah.
More like shit rock.
Yeah.
Get out of here, shit rock.
Anyway, I got frustrated yesterday, and I don't do this often anymore. When I was drinking, it was much more pervasive. My mood swings, but I do get worried sometimes that there could be something there, but it's like we said at the beginning, it's tough to test for.
There's usually a decline. How did they say that? There's usually a decline, or the symptoms start happening years after the damage has already been done. But you usually tell somebody who's experienced it when they were younger, like football players and young teenagers and stuff. They usually can tell by the ages of 40 and 50. So I wouldn't worry too much about that.
Okay, good.
Could you?
And my question is, they're just now adding some of the Agent Orange disabilities
Yeah.
at the VA for coverage. So how long is it going to take for them to start recognizing brain trauma?
Well, I just started noticing, it was a TED talk this lady gave about military people who were just now starting to recognize that they could be suffering from and have suffered from CTE from what they went through in the military. It's still in its infancy, but they are making progress to make it more prevalent. I don't know how far it'll go, but they are trying at least.
Cujo has a good question, kind of along the lines of what you were addressing, Lisa. Like he asked, how do you deduce the difference between trauma-related mental incapacitation versus having a genetic disposition to develop it? There's no good answer. It's being in contact with medical professionals and people to help understand these problems going on. For the genetic stuff, there are other tests that can pick up genetic markers on that earlier and have established symptoms and other further testing that they can go into for that.
Yeah, I think being cognitive of yourself too, and just taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
Self-care is a good one, and being aware of, what goes on in your own body and how you are reacting to things.
And developing that system around you. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. There are days in recovery that I feel sure in myself, and I'm like, I remember the first year or two, I'm like, my wife would be like, hey, is something wrong? And, if you've been married for a while, sometimes when a spouse says that, like, my first reaction is like, yep, fine. Yep, fine. Like,
I'm fine.
I'm almost put off, like they're even fucking asking the question, right? That's just an instinctual response. And at first I want to be like, I'm not feeling anything. I'm not, feeling any different. And I realized that I did need, like, I have to come to my own awareness of what's going on. But until that person was able to help provide feedback, I learned how to ask, like, what do you mean? Do you think something's not fine? Is there, and they would go, well, your behavior the past 2 or 3 days has been this, this, and this. And, when I was giving certain behaviors no thought, I had to sit back and reflect on it, how my partner presented it to me. Right. And so that's what part of increasing awareness is what I'm trying to say is, like, you're not going to think your way out of everything on this one. Like, you're not going to be, because these items deal with your own cognitive health, you're going to have some way to have a feedback, people around you, support systems and stuff like that to be able to reflect it and tap in on.
I've personally had 2 TBIs. One, I dove headfirst into a speed bump, which was very interesting. And the second one, I put my head through a windshield from the back seat. So those 2 experiences, I had loss of bits and pieces of memory. Luckily, the first one happened when I was young, so I think my brain kind of helped heal itself. And the other one happened when I was in late teens, so and I didn't have any more trauma after that, so I don't know how much it affected me. I don't feel like it affected me, but to your point, I've got other people around me that that can give me feedback and let me know, okay, what's going on, or are you okay? You're acting kind of weird or anything like that. So it is nice to have people around you as kind of a buffer or a feedback system to let you know if there's anything that they're noticing that you're doing strange that's out of your normal habits or anything to help you work through whatever's going on.
So increasing our awareness of others, just being sympathetic to that. The other is just understanding what happens to the body after TBI stuff. I also had a TBI. It was my senior year playing ice hockey.
That's a good one to get a TBI.
Yeah, it was a play into the corner, and I ended up getting cross-checked around the face mask to the point where, like, when I was finally going through my gear weeks later, like, it was to the point where I couldn't use a face mask anymore. Like, it was mangled to the point
Good grief.
It did such a job that I had an immediate concussion, and I was unable to develop like I had no short-term memory for about a week. So like I didn't hit the ice. It was really weird. I'm glad a coach from another sport was running the penalty box, because what happened was I got hit. I didn't hit the ice. And I skated over to the penalty box, not our bench. And I went and sat in the penalty box, and I said, "Hey, coach, I'm sorry I missed practice."
Oh boy!
And he was just the penalty box handler, but he coached another sport, like I said. And he goes, "Oh, okay, we're gonna sit out." And he immediately, thank goodness, pulled me out, and I had to go get all the scans and everything, but there really wasn't much they could do. Like, my brain, it was a intense concussion. My brain swelled up pretty big, and I had to have a handler for like a week. The first 2 or 3 days, I had to be woken up like every half hour or hour,
just to make sure everything's good.
So I was very thankful for the people, seeing that around. So, but just be mindful that TBIs during the events, they look different on people, and there are certain symptoms with concussions and other certain things that happen with other head stuff. So,
and it also depends on where it happened, whether it was the temporal or whether it was the frontal or whether it was the occipital. So it just depends on where it happened in the brain, on what kind of responses or reactions you're going to have.
Yeah.
One that occurred to me while you guys were talking is the new brain fog, long COVID damage that people are experiencing, because there is no one-time traumatic event per se other than being sick, but it's impacting recall, it's impacting word retrieval, reading, writing, memory. It's just really interesting.
Well, I think unfortunately COVID kind of attacks pretty much every system in the body, respiratory, circular, neurological, and unfortunately it reacts in everybody different.
Yeah. Looks like we got the audio fixed. I changed the setting up on it was OBS. OD confirmed. And
thank you, Odie.
So I was able to turn these down, and then Lisa's coming in much better. Okay, so a bunch of good discussion. So Fem said, and this is it made me sadistically chuckle because it's typical Veterans Affairs stuff. The VA has already been recognizing TBI, and unfortunately CTE, since it can only be diagnosed post-mortem. We will be reimbursed after diagnosis.
Nice. Nice. Oh, man.
Yeah. And then, Cujo is talking about, again, how it's unfortunately not a big discussion. Because it's suck it up. It's sports. It's whatever. Be a man about it, and that's just how it is. And
hence the correlation between TBI, CTE, and alcoholism.
Yes.
Because they're not, like you said, they're not really doing anything but suck it up.
Yeah. To your point earlier, when you said you couldn't find a lot of correlation between these and addiction and alcoholism, I couldn't either, because I wanted to be a little bit versed for this. Mm-hmm. But I came across, again, football players mainly. Mm-hmm. And I forget this guy's name. He passed away in the mid-90s. I should have remembered his name.
I think his name was Harrison or Wilson or something.
I can't remember. I don't know which one you watched, but he said that was the only way that he felt some sense of normalcy. So again, it's another cliche of his. He said felt like he was just constantly on the cusp of going insane. He'd have weird deja vu moments and everything like that, and anger and everything we discussed. But he said that drinking and cocaine especially helped him really relax, which is, the brain. We've said it many times. We think it's such a powerful mechanism, but it's not. It's very malleable and sensitive, and we got to be careful. I was telling Judy and Dad the other day, like, how's boxing and MMA still allowed? Man, take a couple knees to the head.
And we can talk about some of those developments, but the brain's just a floating salt bag in a road case,
Yeah,
right?
Pretty much.
It can do some pretty cool stuff, but at the end of the day,
and the inside of the skull is not smooth.
No. But there's a bunch of theories. So like football, I know there was development around like why rugby is considered in some ways safer. Like at first they were like they do everything without pads and that's insane. Football has helmets that will protect you.
Can I answer this one, Patrick?
Yeah,
because it's always been my theory. That's why take football players' helmets away and you eliminate this shit, because we naturally don't go around bumping our head into shit if we don't have a helmet on.
Yeah, so they develop tackling techniques and they have rules around like protecting that, right? Yeah. You're not going in head first. So too with MMA, like a lot of people, I'm not trying to weigh in on this, but a big argument for MMA with the ref is the ref has the ability to call it there. They don't have to go through the count to call it, so that they can immediately shut down when they see the sign of an injury. That is so extremely hard to do for a human to be able to call. That's best judgment, and most of the times it's wrong.
Where's the entertainment value in that?
But the other point is, boxing, everybody's like, well, boxing's got bigger gloves, but they go through much more repeated type
head
of
blows.
Yes. And their refereeing system for, downed opponents is different.
Yeah.
So I'm not here to argue one over the other. I'm just trying to say, like, it's beginning to come into the dialogue of the sports of how they're being made.
Well, they used to call that punch drunk. And that's basically what you were, was punch drunk.
And I just love the fact that we've also had an episode talking here, like alcohol, everything that your body is doing when you're imbibing alcohol is it freaking the fuck out, just trying to survive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. You're just, and the thing that we can say, you punch drunk or whatever, like, just the idea of like, hey, I just need to relax. I need to sit and imbibe this and put myself into, a state of like, just a little damage to the brain's not going to be bad. Okay.
But over and over and over. They're also saying that soccer players, football for you Brits,
or the rest of the world, yeah, is also coming into play because of the headbutts that they're giving the ball. Now it's a soft ball,
headshots
or whatever you. I never played soccer, but
they don't let the young kids. They don't let Flynn.
I was going to ask about that.
They don't let them do that.
Yeah. Good. It's like a miniature car wreck. Smack.
Yeah. So I read a story about a teenager who started playing football when he was 8. And I think he committed suicide when he was in his early 20s, because by that time he was already showing symptoms of CTE. So when you start a child who's young playing these sports, it's the brain is growing at that point, and so you're damaging the brain while it's in its growing state. So you're basically doing more damage than just an adult or somebody whose brain is already matured enough to,
the tissue's supposed to be elastic and rebound and be able to repair itself, but when you have damage to it, it creates scar tissue, right? This is not. Yes. It's not. It's scar tissue is there meant to survive, to help the body stay together, to get by, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to make sure we're getting Lisa in on the conversation too. You got any other thoughts?
Hold on, Lisa.
Well, my question is does that then apply to using early? Right? If you're going to
hell yeah.
I would not be surprised, because they're suffering from stuff that they have no possibly no idea what's going on. Yeah. And they don't really have anybody to talk to about it.
Yep. I would agree with that, especially using early, but we also, Dr. Gabor Mate's work has shown how these impressions can be made while you're in the womb, right? The mother under stress.
Yes. Increase of cortisol, increases of cortisol in the baby.
Shaping the receptors and everything like that. Yep. Like already out from the get-go of how we deal with stress and everything like that. So, that puts in certain proclivities before you're even born. That stacks the deck a certain way. But I would also agree, like using early at a young age is very similar to, physically, traumatizing your brain.
Yeah, for sure. So Lisa, you might know more about this from a physical perspective, but I read that that's why there was a push and there's a ton of confusion that the drinking age should be much higher than it is. So a lot of doctors have said that alcohol induction before the age of 25 is wildly detrimental to the physical development of the brain matter. Any drug, in fact, it's a huge hampering for the growth, right, of the gray matter itself.
Well, and I think with some of the newer understanding that the maturity and the childlike maturity of the brain is like 28 or something that they've started talking through.
Mine's 45.
Yeah, maybe never for some of us. But
so I wanted go ahead.
I was going to say the other piece to consider too when you start talking about in utero and then shortly after is the ACEs, right? They started talking more about adverse childhood experiences and how that can actually alter your brain pathways too.
Yeah. I wanted to bring up beast wrestling. Cujo. Okay. Cujo. Got it. There's pressure on collegiate athletes on scholarships and to continue despite head injuries. You don't want to risk losing scholarships or being out so long you lose your spot, which is unfortunate, but I agree.
I could totally see that from a young high school or college kid's perspective. That's your future. That's the dream. Why you would not? You would constantly fake or lie your way through any of that stuff. Patrick, I'm sure you did it when you were playing hockey, right?
I knew I wasn't going anywhere, but I think Cujo's bringing up a good point of us tying certain things to our identity, and I want to relate this to certain parts of alcoholism, like, when we feel like there's no way out type of thing too, when we're in it, right? Like I can't cope, I can't do anything without it. Like as much as I try, I have to have this to cope, or I need a drink to get through this. Is much like the same way, like, I'm worried for the safeguard of my brain, but I am a collegiate athlete. I'm on scholarship. If I'm not getting smashed in the head, then I'm not going to school.
Right.
Or my parents will be disappointed in me, or my peers will be disappointed into me. Like, I mean, there's a South Park episode. I struggle with this conversation about this because, like, at a certain point, do we take away all contact sports? And what they did, they brought in Sarcastiball, where they had a balloon full of air, and the kids just had to like bop it around, and they were like in full padding, and it was like no contact, anything. And of course, like everybody's like, you're raising a bunch of floofs, a bunch of
pansies.
Weak pansies, and it's so like. That's the scary part with TBI right now. If somebody were to say like, maybe somebody gets a TBI on a collegiate team and, like what if they are the D1 athlete, they're on scholarship, they're profiled, and what if they say like, yeah, that one was pretty serious. I don't think I'm going to be able to, like, I'm worried about my health. What do you think the immediate societal response to that is?
Wimp.
What a wimp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh, I wish I could.
You are less than.
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
You're yeah.
And then from the other participant in that, the collegiates or the scouts or whatever, they're like, okay, whatever, we'll move on to the next chunk of meat in the factory.
The meat grinder
Yeah.
is always available,
Yep.
right?
Yeah. There's always somebody behind you waiting to take your place.
Yeah. Maggie also brought up, so having memory issues from long-term effects of COVID and influenza A. Yeah. Just another thing that's undiagnosed, misdiagnosed, or not diagnosed.
Cujo said the Broncos are the best sarcastic ball team.
So what do we do? What do we to your point, Patrick? Does someone pound a gavel and
Sarcastic ball is the only sport we're playing from here on out.
say, yeah,
Is that what we're doing?
Ping pong.
yeah,
Badminton.
Lisa, what do we do? Do we ban boxing and MMA, or do we buy a ticket and watch people get punched in the head?
We're not going to
all
ban
day?
alcohol. And as somebody who's sober, like I don't want to go out and say like alcohol is banned because we saw how prohibition worked.
Right.
Yeah. Suffragette.
So yeah, I'm interested to hear, Lisa, what you might have to say. I'll lead the.
Innovative design for an internal protector. I don't know.
They're
Somebody come up with a
actually
new patent.
they're actually working on that. There was a band that I saw that helps to it goes around the head, but it's just a specific band. It's not a helmet or anything, but they're still working on better helmets and better protection. But I think something that we can do is better awareness of the issues that happen, better more information put out there into society about CTE, TBI, and a correlation with alcoholism. I think is one of the ways we can help.
Yeah, I agree at this point. Like, much like alcoholism, we can't just eliminate all the alcohol. What we're trying to do is treat the root causes.
Yeah.
Right? That is a disease, and much like TBI, like I don't think we're going to, unfortunately, we're not going to get away from TBIs, even if we say like we only deal with them accident only. Like, look, even in like ping pong and other sports like that, there's going to be TBIs. Yes, they're not like strapping on gear and smashing their heads. What I'm trying to say is continued education on this and grace for those who have gone through it, knowing that like, hey, and like the conversations, having the small ones when a sports athlete does step away, that may have something like that, or if they're worried about their health, like I remember Andrew Luck walking away and him getting a bunch of grief, like
He's still young. He can
it's
still play.
not-
Why is he walking? Yeah.
That's a scary thing to speak up, because like the bar talk or the sports talker is going to be like, yeah, he just wasn't a man. He wasn't a football player. It's like, hey man, he played at the highest level and gave it a shot and was worried, and he's retiring millions of dollars. I don't think he has anything to apologize for.
No, and he'll be able to celebrate his brain health for a while.
Yeah, good on him for getting out. It's conversations like that, like, knowing that these athletes are just people too, that they're just not, the recent sacrifice to the altar of the, societal entertainment gods. Like, I don't want the Coliseum, like, make him bleed and I will be happy type of thing. It's like, dude, they're people too. And there are bigger things in life, and stopping a game or pulling a player out, like I'm just remembered, it was either soccer or basketball in Europe, and a coach, it was soccer, and a reporter asked a coach, like, what do you think about your star athlete missing a potential playoff game or a tournament game because of the birth of his child? And the coach was like, no, we're gonna shut this down right now. And he's like, are you kidding me? And they were like, well, yeah, it's the most important game of the club's history and everything like that. And he's like, you don't understand. Like, there are greater things in life that we are destined to do than just a game or just our role or just our identities, right? This, being a dad is something that, you can't relive for the first time, or like when it happens, it's not like a repeatable event. And it's like, so he did a very good job of like saying like, there is just so much more out there. I was like, and I like how he framed it. He just basically was like, the reporter was just so intent on making it a thing. And he's like, that doesn't even come close to the expanse of life.
Mm-hmm. The birth of your first child.
I can understand why you're focusing on that right now. So to our attachments of our feelings around sports and other things, I'm glad it's, the scary thing is of bringing it up with veterans is like what you were talking about, like just send them to the live fire range. They're going to get used to it, blah, blah, blah. It's like the more we unveil in these conversations, the more it lays naked and bare the fact that war is just a fucking meat grinder.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Just a pointless goddamn meat grinder.
Oh, yeah.
In a lot of scenarios. And it is just so, and that's kind of the scary part of these things. Like at the end of the day, yeah, football, it's just a game. I'm not going to trade lives to watch football. I'm not trying to say like Sarcastaball is the answer. But, if we have to come to the point where we're peeling certain things back or I don't know how we're going to do it, but, raising awareness of head injuries and protecting the kids at a younger age, especially.
Mm-hmm. Most
and
definitely.
then education and then support afterwards. Much like veterans, I get frustrated. I feel confused in this area because I'm going to go down a realm like there's certain people that just want to come up and like immediately like, I get this. And John, I need your help with this is like when they come up and say like, thank you for your service or whatever, but they're also the first ones to say like, we should just go fucking nuke this country and like whatever. And it's like, is this like, am I putting two and two together here? Like, and when the veterans come back, it feels like, the VA is so limited, but like we go and say like, we're going to put you through every horrible thing that you can imagine about the human existence, and you're going to go through that for a righteous cause. But when you get back, you're kind of fucking on your own.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not just, and I've talked about this, coming back for healing is not just like, oh, I'm going to go up to the mechanic shop and they're going to go to the VA and I'm going to get spruced up. Like the amount of support that I think our veterans need afterwards is exponentially bigger than we can even imagine at this point.
Yeah. I
definitely.
talk about this a lot. I've told Judy about it. I did a bunch of YouTube shorts that. So here's the analogy. In the infantry, you literally get trained to kill other human beings. That is your job. I'll never forget when we got back from Kuwait. We stopped at Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany. We got super fucking drunk because we hadn't drank in 6 months, and now we're drinking a bunch. I don't even really recall that. Then the next thing you know, we landed in Dover, Delaware. The next thing you know, we're back in Kentucky, and when you open your eyes and you can't. There's no light switch that just goes, all right, now you're back in society. Go forth and do good stuff. You just did. That's not how we work as human beings. If you do, then you are a sociopath, So it's really difficult to navigate. I get a little misty-eyed when I talk about this because it's not something I like to talk about. But when you're that young and you do this stuff for a cause and patriotism, and then you get expected to just continue being a good human being. And there's tons of soldiers out there that do multiple tours because, and this is another cliche, there's a lot of books written about this because that's what they start to get accustomed to and feeling good with, because you don't need to turn the light switch off there. I knew a bunch of guys that did repeat tours in Korea just because it's still an active combat zone. You do a lot of live fire drills, but I always question that because I was stationed there for 13 months, and it's a fucking shit show. It's a horrible place. It's 54 years back in time, and I was talking to a guy. We were getting drunk one night, and that's the first time I realized it. I'm like, why do you keep coming back? He's like, I'm going to do my entire tour over here because they love people volunteering for those hardship tours. I was like, why? He's like, because I don't have to act like a human being. I just act like a fucking animal here all the time. I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. But
there's like a lot of sad grace in that, you know, like, I don't know, you want to be like angry, like how it's like watching somebody choose the dark side, right? But it's also them being very human and being like, I don't know anything else. This is who I am. And if I try to go somewhere, like I'm going to be shunned or pushed out. Like it just feels like it feels so alone and isolating to hear something like that. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm curious, loaded question. Not only that, John, but there is no equivalent to what soldiers did in the military here. And so, you're right. There's, you know, when I came back and applied for jobs, back then it was very interesting when I applied for sheriff's departments, police departments. They're like, we don't want any fucking infantry soldiers. You guys just run around kicking in doors and fucking shooting everyone. Well, yeah, but I'm different now.
Crazy how the decades change. I would rather want some infantry soldiers rather than some of the other local enforcement.
All right, so loaded question. Lisa, you just chime in whenever. We're not going to be cordial.
You, Lisa.
No, I'm enthralled. I'm like observing at the same time. No. But I think the topic of services, like even when we offer services, there's so many available that like people skip. You know what I mean? Like let's try these two things, and if it doesn't work, well, you're on your own. And so I think if we are able to utilize even stuff that's, I shouldn't say this from the box, but stuff that's outside the box for people, because there's a lot of options. And I think if we can, and you know, that opens up the whole conversation of like time and money and insurance and healthcare, and that's a whole other episode.
Yeah, that's a whole other show.
and you're 100% right, Lisa. We did a show on a while ago on how to navigate. How do you go see a psychiatrist or a therapist? How do you even start? Mm-hmm. It's for some people, the navigation portion of that is unattainable to even start with. And then to your point, Lisa, it might be to our detriment. There's fucking millions of things to start with, and we get inundated with, well, do I sign up for BetterHelp on the phone and just go that route, or where do I go? So and it's tough for folks to get out of their shells once we're in that,
especially with people who are suffering from mental like anxiety or depression.
Once you're depressed,
phobic of some kind.
Lisa, Patrick, you guys know, once we've talked about it, if luckily, knock on wood, I haven't been in a depressive state before. Judy's seen me. Patrick saw me once, and I was kind of hiding it. But you can't fucking motivate yourself to go start taking that first step. It's tough. Mm-hmm. All right, so loaded question. This is not a trick question, but I'm curious because...
Load it up, baby.
Load it up. Lisa, you talked about... Odie and I had a really good discussion. He was very impressed by your philosophy of how you're going to or continue to educate your girls on drinking without having a veil of mysticism around it, but then allowing them to sort of put up their own guardrails as they go through life, which I expressed that was tough for me to do because I know me, I know my daughter. Excuse me. And sorry. 1,000. We have 1,000 subscribers.
And it's going to take us another 15 minutes to get back on track.
No, I'm staying on track.
Right.
And then Patrick, you are the saint of all fathers with your children. But so what do you do? Lisa, your girls come to you in a couple of years. They say, "Mom, I want to get into boxing." Patrick, same thing with your two children.
I want to get into football.
Where do you, without being that parent that, no, it's bad for you. No, you can't. And then just, you put your child in a little box in a corner and they can't do anything except play sarcastic ball.
That's a good question.
I mean, so we know the dangers of it now, and it's becoming more prevalent even further. So, soccer here in this, or football. So it has some dangers, but he wants to play football. Where do we, from a parenting perspective, Lisa, what do you do? Knowing that there's an inherent danger, like you could tell your girls, like, you're gonna get punched in the head and you can get TBI and CTE, and then
it's your sign behind Judy. I'm not telling you it's going to be easy. I'm
Yeah.
telling you it's going to be worth it. It's all for me, 95% of it is the same approach. Here's the information.
Mm-hmm.
You do you. Like, if you know the risks. Now, right, the developing brain you can't know until you know, right? Like, we did our own damage to ourselves too, and we continue to sometimes. But yeah, education repeatedly, my opinion if they want it, and probably if they don't sometimes, and then just, I am not going to sit on top of you and make your decisions. Like, this is you.
Right.
As much as it might hurt, and they might get hurt, and I did the same. I mean, I look at, how many times have I apologized to my parents for my behavior, right? And my choices along that line. Like, I did damage to myself, and
I would have to agree, like in the way that manifests to me is talking to them directly, like to understand what the desire is, like, is it really to play X sport? What is it? Like, is it something about the sport? Like, what I'm saying is, like, if they asked about football, there's many flag football options available. With combat sports, there's other stuff that, like grappling, judo, and other stuff like that. I know there's TBI in those type of areas, but it's not like you're really sparring for like direct contact. What I'm trying to say is there's variations too, and then also developing thing too. If my kid came to me, I grew up playing ice hockey, and I played it right up until a couple of years ago. It's like, if he wanted to do that, like, I'd have to talk to him, but that's also when you're like helping them. I just don't go say, oh, go out and skate. It's like, okay, we're going to work on some stuff too to help develop, help train awareness. Like, TBIs happen, but we also have to train our abilities to protect ourselves. What I'm trying to say is TBIs don't happen because of our inability to protect ourselves. When my son comes to me, asks to play hockey. We do all the training to protect, get all the right equipment, do everything. Say something happens. That doesn't mean that we failed in his training to protect that, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, you can't predict the future.
Can't predict the future.
Can't predict it.
Mitigating that stuff from happening. And then also, if they do go into it and a TBI does happen, part of that is being educated to the point to help identify that. And then, if it's time to pull back, hey, that probably should have happened to me in my senior year of high school, of like, hey, you can't develop any short-term memories. Maybe finishing out the season, since you're not going to like juniors or anything like that, would be the better idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there are certain avenues within a parent that, like Lisa said, they're not going to be easy to discuss. But I'm also not going to just be the no blanket sitting on top of them.
And unfortunately, I don't have children, but coming from, a person who played a lot of sports when they were in their high school years, that was a very great learning experience to play those sports. And I mean, I did basketball and volleyball, and track and softball, but they were all really good learning experiences on team building and on being a team player and on camaraderie. And those, I think, are important things for children growing and maturing and going through those years. I think those are very important things.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say the same thing Cujo was bringing up, why it was important to them. And I agree. Testing physical boundaries is just knowing your body. And unfortunately, when you meet some of those boundaries, these types of things do happen. I'm not saying be reckless of it. You know, we're just going to have to continue for further education and knowledge.
Yeah,
to
I think
help
that's the key.
mitigate it.
I think that's the key is further education.
Yeah.
And support.
Yes, most definitely.
You know, I always joke like, you know, we're worrying like we're not going to fucking make it out of this alive. Spoiler alert, we're not.
Yeah.
You know, same with like, there's this weird thing about being a parent. Like at a certain point, I thought like if I could just hamster ball everything enough, it would be all right.
Yeah.
But you realize that like that hurts the child's development more than anything else. Because
Although that would be fun.
Yeah, they have no tools for themselves, right?
Yeah.
So too with sports teaches so many other tools to like deal with in life. And that's also physical stuff. Like I said, you know, like just knowing how to protect yourself and strengthen certain areas and just be aware of certain items. So
yeah, Cujo said that it helped change him for the better and made him more a confident individual, and it gave him a feeling of strength and belonging. And that's definitely what it does. I mean, it yeah. But I do think that I really do think that we need to have more support for those people who have symptoms of CTE and TBI. I think there should be more out there to help those people, more out there to help veterans that come back from war that could possibly have CTE, and to help them not go towards the bottle or go towards drugs, but go towards therapy and towards assistance to help. I think that's one of the best things we can do.
We have a long way to go.
Yes.
We've come a long way, I guess. Yeah.
yeah, we have come a long way. That's a good point, John. Like, you know, it's not perfect, but I think the amount of concerted effort that, you know, society has continued to put in, it's not going to change overnight. But
No.
I think we're continuing to have conversations on it, that
Yeah.
awareness. So
Like what we're doing now.
Yeah. And, you know, according to some of our politicians, I'm just happy to know that we've never been a racist country. So that's cool.
never,
Never.
that was out of left field, but
Sorry.
I get you.
I had to get.
That one was stuck in your noodle for a bit.
Yeah. Okay.
So the Civil War never happened.
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah. Good discussion. I think we could talk about this for hours. So
Yeah.
we will.
A lot of information.
What did Cujo say? Specialized dance units. Heck yeah, man. Okay. It is top of the hour, a little bit past. We got to wrap it up. Thanks for dealing with our audio issues. I found the setting. I think we're getting it sorted. Odie, thanks for keeping an eye on it. Lisa, thank you so much for joining. We'll have to figure out what the schedule is because I know since you've been on here, people are going to have you in high demand. I had a topic for next week, but I wanted to get everyone's opinion on some stuff first. So here's what I'm going to do. Please go join our Discord server. Go to the top of the YouTube page or whatever you see in your app and click the Discord. Join our Discord and go into the channel that reads shit, I forgot what it is. Future topics, future show topics or something like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
You'll see it in
Yeah.
there. And give us your opinion on what you would like to talk about. We have a ton of stuff that we have ready to go, but Lisa, is there something that you're chomping at the bit to discuss next week?
No, we can chat more, but thank you for having me again, and the chat's been going crazy, which is great. So
Yeah.
Thanks for joining. This has been fantastic.
And just for those unfamiliar with Discord, you know, if you do hit the link, there are some actions that you have to do to verify yourself before the channels will present themselves. This is to help keep the bots out and other items, so we can just make sure that people coming to the space are active and actual people. So
if you're not feeling human,
Yeah,
Discord
if you're not
will let you verify that you are.
There you
Right?
go.
Yeah, Discord.
Perfect.
Good point, Patrick. Discord is a super awesome utility, but it is not just plug and play. Click here. It's you got to do a little bit of navigating.
But did you want to bring up potential topics, or were you going to rely on suggestions? So
Yeah, so next week I wanted to dig into something that's all near and dear to us all, and I wanted to talk about our development and our parents' impact on who we are.
That could go either way.
Lisa blanked over.
yeah, I did too. I'm like, we're gonna do this one, huh?
It's a good. We don't have to, but that's why I primed it up. Yeah, it's a tough discussion.
That could go either way.
It's uncomfortable. It's something I navigate every single day of my life. I analyze my genetic makeup and my social makeup, and it's tough. So we can get into it. If not, we could save that for a rainy day.
Wow. I mean, I feel like there's so many avenues that one could spill out to. So, all come with an open mind. I don't know if we want to hone in on a specific topic around that or, certain idea, but I am game.
Okay, so I guess I'll start the primer for it because that is pretty broad. Lately, I've been posting a lot of shorts and thinking a lot about how I have broken the cycle of my parents.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I know we don't all have a cycle that we've broken, but I didn't go down the path that my entire family did, and I think there's a lot more.
There's an important point that a child has to develop their own autonomy. They learn the rules and impressions from their parents or with their parental figure, and their identity at a young age is tied to that. So autonomy and learning it, we can call it cycles or whatever, but learning to come out from underneath your parents' shadows, even in their best cases, is a very important developmental point.
I think breaking the cycle is a good one.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, we have a serious discussion. I look at the chat, and Odie says, "Does Patrick still has the pillow?"
Odie's making me laugh. All right, thanks, Odie. No, it's gone somewhere.
You look. Okay. All right. Yeah. So Michelle says Judy and I would unpack quite a bit about our parents. All right.
Hence the reason I didn't really see much about that topic.
I think a lot of people, very complicated.
Yeah.
But I think breaking the cycle is a good topic.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Okay. Lisa, thoughts?
I try not to have any after 11 on Saturday.
It's 11:12, so I guess you're off the clock, huh?
I'm in the box.
You're in the box.
All right, so we're gonna do something a little bit different this time. Usually, I go to the end screen and then we let some music play and all of that good stuff. But we're gonna end the broadcast and the stream abruptly so that we could still talk to Lisa for a bit.
Okay.
All right, Lisa, don't go anywhere.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much for logging in and listening and contributing. Some of the stuff you guys said was fantastic. We really appreciate it. If you're listening on a podcast,
there's no more. There's no more audio podcast. I was gonna
never mind.
So I know you guys. I asked you about it, and then you're like, "Yeah, it's still a good idea." Then I promptly went and canceled the subscription. I was paying for the audio podcast, and it's just the follow. A lot of podcasts are having issues. It's something that we are pumping money into for no reason. YouTube is where we want our subscribers to be, hence our 1,000
on the YouTubes.
Yeah. So,
well, anybody who just briefly came in and checked us out a little bit and like what we were talking about, please feel free to subscribe and
join the Discord.
And join Discord. Yes.
Yep. Okay. Odie, also, I saw your stream, your Welcome Fam yesterday. Sorry that you had a breakdown with Jedi. That was interesting. That was sad. But okay, secretly, I was down here doing work, and I was like, Odie's stream just took a shit, so I'm not the only one.
It happens. That one broke my heart too. He's been in the big Star Wars space and to do Survivor. It's a non-optimized game.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks a lot, EA. Okay.
Oh, that's another rabbit hole that we could go down, but for another show.
Yep. All right, everyone. Thank you. Be kind to yourselves.
Be patient with yourself.
You are loved. And we will talk to you later.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. I'm going to go to the end screen and then I'm going to cut. Hold, don't go anywhere, Lisa.